Remember when James Cameron went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench unprompted? Imagine. Welcome back. Before I dive in today, we lost a legend. We lost an icon. Dolly Parton has passed away at the age of 80 years old. And absolutely devastating. It was really hard news today, I feel like, for everybody. I've seen people in every kind of niche community post about her. I feel like she really was a beacon of light for so many generations. So this one's for you, Dolly, though I don't know how much you would like it. This week is our 35th episode, and you know what that means. Nonsense. No, I'm kidding. But it does mean that today we are diving into a larger topic, and today we are talking about something that is truly one of my biggest fears. Deep water, and what is lurking in the depths. Last week, the trailer for Whalefall came out, and all I can say is Austin Abrams is taking quite the beating this year. Now, Whalefall is based on a book of the same name, written by Daniel Kraus, who has been on my favorite podcast, Colors of the Dark, multiple times, and he was also on for this book specifically, promoting it. And Whalefall will be directed by Brian Duffield and follows a scuba diver who, while looking for his father's remains, is swallowed by an 80-foot, 60-ton sperm whale and has 1 hour to get out before his oxygen runs out. And Brian Duffield previously directed Spontaneous from 2020. That movie made me cry like a little baby. And he also directed No One Will Save You from 2023. And both are decent films that have some pretty emotional core and like center. I feel like he's gonna do really good with this one. I have high hopes, especially from the trailer. The trailer alone gave me so much anxiety. My heart was in my butthole the whole time. The squid also being ingested with it. Oh my goodness. I would love to read the book. But before we get too far into this, please go ahead and give the Get Weird podcast a 5-star rating, a comment, a like, wherever, and check me out on social media, linked somewhere in the description. And since I mentioned Whalefall, the book and movie, I'd like to talk about the real life event that somehow was the catalyst. So while Whalefall is not a true story, Daniel Kraus got the idea after seeing, do you guys remember a viral video back in 2020 of the kayakers who were briefly, lovingly engulfed and spit out by a humpback whale? Well, Kraus talked to whale scientists to see, what are whale scientists called? Should I Google that mid-pod? I'm going to. So, scientists who study whales are called cetologists, with a C, C-E-T-O-L-O-G-I-S-T-S, and the scientific study of whales, dolphins, and porpoises is known as cetology. So look at that, you come here for a little nonsense, you get a little knowledge. But anyway, speaking of knowledge, Daniel Kraus talked to whale scientists to see if a human body could actually be swallowed by a whale, and they came to the conclusion that a sperm whale would be the whale to do so. Scientists noted that it's mostly a myth, however, a massive sperm whale could actually, under rare conditions, theoretically, orally trap a person. And a real whalefall refers to an actual, real, natural marine biology event when a dead whale sinks to the ocean floor and sustains a localized ecosystem for years. And that thought alone is horrific, because when you think about it, a whale could not even fit in my apartment. So imagine what its dead body could harbor. You guys know those videos on TikTok where people make ecosystems in jars and in big glass whatever tanks and stuff. They like seal them up and make these ecosystems. That's what I'm thinking of in a whale. That's a whalefall to me. But in November 2020 at Avila Beach in San Luis Obispo Bay, California, two friends, Julie McSorley and Liz Cottrell, were out on a tandem yellow kayak. And they were out there whale watching, enjoying the sunrise, having some quality time. They paddled about 30 feet away from other actual people and unfortunately found themselves floating over a massive, what is called bait ball, and happens to be a swirling swarm of silver fish. And that happens to be a perfect snack for lung feeders such as humpback whales. So these girls are floating there, and just imagine you're just minding your own business out on the water and a whale is charging up at you, mouth open. Anyways, whales do that because at one time they use their mouths to scoop up thousands of fish at once, and the girls were essentially in direct line of that. And there's video footage, you guys can look it up, of the whale's massive jaws coming out of the water and just completely taking the girls in their kayak for a few seconds. They literally disappeared in its mouth. And Liz Cottrell later in an interview said that she saw the giant white underbelly of the whale lift them into the air, and she immediately thought she was dead because she thought it was going to land on them. Guys, that is so scary. Imagine how small you would be in that thing's mouth. I don't know what it is, but when I see things that are so massive like that, it makes me feel physically ill. But the whale had no intention of harming the girls. Thankfully, it realized that it scooped up matter. It was not fish, and immediately spit them out. And nearby paddleboarders and kayakers rushed to pull them out of the water. And neither of the women had any injuries, surprisingly. They came right back up to the surface, paddled back to shore, but they did lose a set of car keys, so I guess they were just inconvenienced altogether, but it is a miraculous story. And before we finish off here, let's quickly talk about another real-life story behind another movie from over 20 years ago now, Open Water from 2003. Before Open Water was ever a movie, there was the incredibly disturbing real-life disappearance of Tom and Eileen Lonergan. On January 25th, 1998, a Louisiana couple went scuba diving at St. Crispin's Reef off the coast of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. They were experienced divers, which is the saddest thing, and they had gone out with a group aboard a charter boat called the Outer Edge. But when the boat left the reef, nobody realized Tom and Eileen were still in the water. The crew had miscounted the divers, and it wasn't until 2 days later they discovered some of the couple's belongings and realized what happens. I went to my endocrinologist, my cancer doctor, last week, and there was a lady in the waiting room, and they forgot about her, and she was there for 2 hours, and they forgot about her. Now, imagine that happening to you out in the water, out in the ocean. A massive search was launched, but Tom and Eileen were never found. And this is where Open Water comes into play, because director Chris Kentis and his wife, producer Laura Lau, were also both experienced scuba divers themselves. And Kentis came across the Lonergan's story in a diving newsletter. Remember newsletters, guys? Back in the late 90s. He said the story genuinely stuck with him because the idea of accidentally being left behind in the middle of the ocean was absolutely terrifying. So when the two of them decided to make a low-budget film using digital cameras, unknown actors, and real locations, this is the story that immediately seemed like the perfect foundation. The Lonergan story. They did not want to make like a typical Hollywood shark movie. We actually just watched a great one, Water Park Shark. Highly recommend. But they wanted something more stripped down and very realistic. And they wanted to ask the audience, us, the audience, what would happen if two ordinary people were just left floating in the middle of the ocean. And that's what makes open water so unbelievably unsettling. It may seem a little boring. My mom thought it was a boring movie, but it actually happened, and while specific events in the movie are fictionalized, the nightmare at the center of it came from something that really happened. And that's only 2 examples of things that have gone wrong. Another guy was swallowed by a whale last year and spit out, and I'm sure there's countless more things related to the depths that we could cover, but I mainly wanted to use this as an excuse to talk about Whalefall because I am really excited to see it. And I actually feel like I get most tense and unnerved by movies about or in water because there's so much of the ocean and the seas and the rivers and lakes that are unexplored. And I truly believe, okay guys, stay with me for a second. I truly believe that if aliens exist, they are in the water. Okay? I want you guys to quote me on that for when, they emerge. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me for 35 weeks. Thank you so much for listening. Stay strange, stay spooky, and until next time, beware of your surroundings, or you might just end up shark bait. Ooh ha ha. Sayonara, suckers.